Welcome, dearest retainers, to Court of Blades, and welcome to Valloward, the greatest city in this or any other age. A city where hearts race and swords flash, where intrigue and danger lie around every corner. Centuries ago, celebrated veterans were given title to Valor Isle, a place long abandoned by its first residents. Here, the heroes found ancient secrets, bountiful land, and a fruit bearing oracular gifts. Generations later, 6 families vie for ultimate control of this jewel of the archipelago, each seeking to lead the great dance of houses. A new retinue rises to clash with flashing blades, veiled plots, and powerful magics in pursuit of their house's interests and their own secret ambitions. Speculate presents Valloward, a Court of Blades campaign, starring Premee Mohamed, Marie Bilodeau, Brandon O'Brien, Gregory A. Wilson, and your dancing master, Michael R. Underwood. Be welcome, retainer. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. It's time for Court of Blades.
Greetings, fair citizens of Valloward. Tonight, we continue and fully endeavor upon our game of Court of Blades, where I will sometimes use a fancy Renaissance voice developed from 5 years of being in the Society for Creative Anachronism. I am your humble dancing master, Michael R. Underwood. Mike everywhere except my byline, and when I'm being other people in RPGs, which I will do tonight with these lovely folks. Court of Blades is a game by a couple of Drakes who have given us lovely production support. They made the great video that you all just saw, as well as the elements of our overlay. So thank you so much to the Drakes. They've been lovely to work with. And I am now going to invite our players to introduce themselves.
Okay, I am Premee Mohamed. I am a novelist and short fictioneer based out of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I recently won a Subjective Chaos Award, a Nebula Award, and an Aurora Award. So it's all been very, very exciting over here. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me tonight. I'm excited to play.
Hi, I am Marie Bilodeau. I am an Ottawa-based science fiction, fantasy, and horror writer, as well as a performing storyteller. I'm also the co-chair of CanCon, which is coming mid-October, which I'm very excited about, and I am very, very excited about playing tonight. So thanks for being here. Yay!
Hello everyone, I'm Brandon O'Brien, a poet, writer, and game designer from Trinidad and Tobago, and 1/3 of the co-host team of Speculate alongside Mike and Greg. I am also the author of the poetry collection Can You Sign My Tentacle, which, as of this morning, won first place in the 2022 Elgin Award.
Heyo!
So I am very excited about that, and the camera is attempting to censor the book so you don't get your mind warped by all of the weird poetry inside here. But if you haven't gotten a copy of this, I guess you now can get a copy of a thing that's won an award. And if you already have it, you have a thing that's won an award. So that's very cool. And I'm very excited to get into Court of Blades shenanigans, because we've been talking about this for so long that now I'm just very excited to actually do some swashbuckling. So yes.
Hi everyone. My name is Gregory Wilson, better known as Arvin Eleron on this channel, and author and game master and streamer and podcaster, and as Brandon has said, co-host along with Mike and Brandon of Speculate, which is now in its, I think, 12th year of production, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been going on for quite some time. And the two things that I want to quickly mention are, first of all, that my novel Greyshade, which came out in May, is currently up on Storygraph as one of the giveaway options for Storygraph. So if you are interested in getting to see it yourself, you should take a look. And if you want to know more about that and about the sequels, Renegade and Heretic, which are coming out in 2023 and 2024 respectively, or about the tabletop role-playing game being designed by a certain Elgin award-winning author, this was part of my plan. You know, first I make sure that the person wins awards, and then Brandon is designing this, and it's going to be badass. I think Brandon would agree. It's going to be pretty amazing. So that is going to be coming out next year as well. And you can find all of that at that link for Gray Shade that has just been placed in chat. Otherwise, I'm super pumped up as well for Court of Blades. And I cannot wait to actually get into playing after we put together an awesome map, which was completely realistic in every respect. It's awesome to actually be just as realistic with our characters.
Excellent. And as I said, I'm Michael Underwood. This summer, I've been re-releasing my urban fantasy series, which starts with Geekomancy and is now complete with Hexamancy. So you can get 3 novels and a novella worth of geeky action adventure fantasy where fandom is a magic system. It was very fun to write. It's how a lot of people first found me as an author. And so those are back out in the world. Valloward is a city of honor, a city of duels. It is a city of trade. It is a city of plenty. There are, 3 different major crops of Valor Island: the lens caps, the Queen's apples, and the illustrious and somewhat mysterious plentifruit, which grants oracular powers if you believe such things. Though the continued fortunes of House Corinne might suggest that there is something to it, or maybe it's just a front for their other magics. And in the now 300 years since the founding of the settlement formerly known as Valor's Reward, now Valloward, House Vorster was there from the beginning, among the first veterans and their families and entourages, or the soldiers that fought with them, who came to this island they thought was, long since abandoned, and by all accounts was. But we know as the audience that the Dialta are not all gone forever. They came to this island, they found amazing gifts, and every year on the day that they kind of arrived on the island, they have celebrated what is now known as Founders Day. And today is the 300th anniversary of the founding of Valloward. And so the Founders Day festival has become a little bit less central as other holidays have kind of come and gone. I have some plans for merch. I want merch for all of the things. So House Vorster is trying to kind of make Founders Day a big thing again, because they are the old house of martial valor. Their history and Valloward's history are truly inextricable. And so they have kind of lobbied for the honor of hosting the Founders Day feast, because it's not the feast and ball. It's not as big of a deal compared to some other holidays. On Founders Day, children will send tiny paper boats downriver to the sea. The city will have a very stuffy ceremony of investiture, which was done earlier today. And then at the ball is the more traditional social activities of Valloward, where there is drinking and dancing and merriment and intrigue. There must always be intrigue. We can do you blood and rhetoric, but there must always be intrigue. Probably not blood today. Founders Day is also a customary day to open a business, to get married, or to begin a new endeavor. And so we will join our coterie, who at some point will need a name. Perhaps a name will emerge from their exploits this evening, in the kind of the great halls of House Vorster, which are, I think maybe not quite as fashionable as the kind of the quarters and the mansions of some of the other houses that are farther up in the ranks of the Great Dance. But they are still illustrious. They are very storied, which is appropriate for the Founders Day feast. And in the grand ballroom, we have, there are folks dancing. There is a string quartet. There are many wonderful decorations. And I'm going to point out a couple of cool things that are here, and then I would invite you all to add a detail or an idea of something that might comprise kind of the festivities of the evening. So one of the cool things that we have is magical batteries hanging in windows. And this is a magic thing that Brandon and I talked about in one of the world building stream we did a while back. So there is floating kind of volcanic porous rock that is suspended toward the top of great bay windows and would have been absorbing light all day. And now in the evening, it has the power to refract that light, and thanks to some additional magic, it casts colored patterns on the walls, showing slowly moving murals depicting moments from Valloward's history. And so the great white painted walls of the interior of this ballroom are covered with scenes of battles from the old country, scene of like a successfully repelled invasion, other moments, but not just from House of Vorster's history, but Valloward overall. Another thing is a great sculpture that is placed kind of at one end of the room. And this sculpture is, starts 12 foot tall and depicted one of the initial founders, the founder of House Vorster. But as the party has progressed, that sculpture the outer layer has dissolved, revealing a different sculpture of another leader later in Valloward's history. So this is a use of the destructive magic of the old country put to a beautiful use. And so, every 30 to 40 something minutes, this sculpture is kind of becoming a new thing as it's almost sculpted and carved in real time, becoming smaller and smaller, revealing new visions. For anybody who has an idea, what's another element that either you were involved in introducing or that you think House of Vorster would be sharing with the attendees of this ball, who are largely drawn from the nobility, but also from prominent factions that are well regarded in the city? So
I would assume there's a spot in one area of the hall in which there is a mock combat being conducted, where there are specific historical combats styles being used as examples. So you have something from what people can tell, from what the researchers from the Academy Valor have told us, or the Valor Academy, about what House of Vorster would have done when they first began in terms of how things were fought, and then combat from 200 years ago, and then combat from 100 years ago, and the modern innovations of new combat as time has gone up. And I imagine that Carevis is watching with arms folded, with a smile on his mustachioed face, arms crossed over his armor. He has, by the way, a deep crimson cloak that flows down and has the coat of arms of House Vorster emblazoned on his ceremonial armor. As always, he has not one but 2 swords at his belt, and he is watching with this smile as the very good combat people are working through their paces, and occasionally might be known to make a comment to somebody next to him about, that's not exactly how it's done. You have to take a step to the left and then move forward. But it's really quite admirable what they're doing. I'm very impressed. They've been working on this for a long time, that sort of thing, as time goes on.
So what about these displays do you think strikes Carevis in this moment as what's the biggest change in how duels were fought between founding and today? 300
years ago, the duels were more brutal, more direct. There is something to be said for the loss of that directness. In some ways can be frustrating when you're trying to get from point A to point B. But the truth is that the brutality meant not only were you being unnecessarily cruel with people, it means you were attacking the wrong targets. And there were times where in your rage and your anger, you ended up killing 3 people around your target instead of the one you actually wanted to kill. So a lot of what I think Carevis would be focusing in on is House Vorster's increased focus on efficient discipline. But it's mixed emotions, right? Because at the same time, man, the idea of just being able to cut through all the red tape, if you will, of combat and just being like without all the whys and wherefores and just going straight to the point is admirable. But Carevis loves the style of combat that doesn't just want to be cruel for the sake of it. And so I would say there's a mixture in Carevis of this is what things used to be. And man, it was really direct and that's nice, but how can you give up the innovations of the mise en garde and the step forward and the leap back, the parry and thrust? How can you give those things up, really? I think would be the mixed emotion.
And I think there's another bravo, probably across the piece or across the pitch from you, from maybe one of the other houses. Who do you think that is?
Rodriguez.
Rodriguez.
It's Rodriguez. Rodriguez, you fop. What are you doing there? You don't understand any of what you're seeing. I suppose you'd have been best suited for 300 years ago, huh? Perhaps you want to get back out there. You might be able to keep up with them now. This is, by the way, in my mind anyway, good-hearted banter because I actually like Rodriguez. Okay. But, he's kind of an old bastard, and so I, make fun of him.
What house do you think Rodriguez serves?
I was totally prepared for that question. And Rodriguez is clearly a part of, let's see, let me take a look at the factions. He's probably in House Fairest, I think, because he would be the force side of things. And I would assume that he would be, like perhaps we've had like run-ins in the past, our houses, but there's kind of a mutual respect and kind of an understanding that he knows that I know that he knows, Right. But I would never choose him over my house naturally, but that's what I would say.
Yeah. And so Rodriguez kind of smiles and then plucks basically a little carved, ornamented toothpick that's been turned into a rapier from the drink, bites the fruit, pulls it whilst looking straight at you, and then says, basically swallows the fruit in one go and says, Diorencio, do not start things that you are unwilling to end, because clearly I am already armed, and you have what? Your tongue? That's not good for anything in terms of fighting. Other things certainly, but here, those look more ornamental than anything. Like it points at your swords, and is doing this as he walks around to embrace you.
As I'm walking towards him, I'm like, that's quite clever. The interesting thing, of course, about your rapier there is that fruits don't bite back. And so I, pop him, just do the step in the bravo hug, right? The back slap, and then stand back and I look him up and down and I say, you're looking fairly well, Rodriguez. What's the news? I've heard there's been action on your side of the street, so to speak. There have been people concerned about whether your house is managing to keep things safely together. I hope you've been able to keep things in order. It's your job to do that,
Well, I end up with quite a number of jobs. It's helpful because it gives me the opportunity to buy more hats, gestures up to his flat cap, which is a good 18 inches across.
I would have assumed that was your father's. It looks old enough to be that.
No, it's your father's.
Oh, clever. That assumes that we are brothers. And if so, I clearly got the better hat. I'm very proud of this hat, by the way. This hat that I have, which is also crimson and has a feather extending up this way. I would encourage everybody to think Sean Connery, also I think Rodriguez vibes from Highlander. I know that I called him Rodriguez, but in terms of just the hat look, okay, for me, that's what I'm imagining.
The city has many demands, and when a bravo like you or I is assigned to a task, things have a certain tendency to narrow to a point, as you know. These
true.
things I can't discuss everything, but what I can discuss is that your cake is very good. We may have to steal your baker from you. Please introduce me.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do that. The funny thing about cake is that the more you eat of it, the more magically seems to appear on the plate. It's almost as if they encourage more of it. Here, let me take you in this direction. Perhaps you can explain to him how to cut a cake with that dull blade of yours.
Cool. That's lovely. I think we'll move from there to another vignette, if that's okay, Greg.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
As long as it leaves me with cake, I'm all about that.
I mean, absolutely.
It was just my birthday last week, so I've been all about cake this entire week, and sign me up for more.
Very good. So does someone else have an idea for a feature or an idea of where you are, where your character is in this party that we can jump to?
Do.
Great.
It's very fascinating that I have this particular element to add to this scene, because I hate this element of the scene. Which is, there is a kind of sand artwork that is attached to the wall. It's not framed or glued or anything like that. It's just using Artcraft to make this moving vignette that is attached to the wall, that is attempting to tell this montage story of the history of these people coming to Vala Isle, and not just settling it, but it's framed as like the literal images that are in this scene are framed as if they were given the gift of this land specifically to attempt to tame and civilize it. And there is literally a young, like, stage performer, maybe like 19 or 20 years old, who is reading this monologue of the history of these people coming to this island with this, like, confidence and self-assuredness that that this is the true only history of this island. And I'm just, like, sitting underneath an archway watching this happen, like, out of the corner of my eye, trying not to let other people notice that I am looking at this. And Zelpha, by the way, is wearing a maroon cape dress. The cape is, like, all the way to the ankle. Very form-fitting, very beautiful. There is this like, almost imperceptible darker maroon stitching across from the left shoulder all the way down to the right of the dress of a now extinct animal on the island called a dragon bird, which is like a 10 to 12 foot Komodo dragon with hummingbird wings. And, like, I'm kind of wearing it as a statement, so people will kind of notice, hey, this used to be here. This is part of the history of this place too. But you don't know what this thing looks like. So yeah.
And I think maybe sitting at on a bench at the wall, but still with a view of this performance, you notice Caitlin Vorster, who is the third child of the house. One is very academically and intellectually inclined, but not really a socially inclined one. And she is the only one in her generation who is especially adept and or interested in magic. And so she's watching this Ardcraft element of the performance very, very attentively. in a very fine dress with with flats that she kind of has kicked up a little bit, and her hair is like back and up with several different pins, each of which are ornamented like swords, because House Vorster, even when they are not at war, they wear that history. The colors of Vorster are red and gold, and so is her dress. Would you have you been talking with Caitlin already today? What do you think your character's relationship is with her?
I think I'm like very amicable with Caitlin, because like I get the impression that Caitlin has the potential to do a great deal of good, but is struggling with like identifying her own potential in a way that I am like, I used to be you when I was a kid. I kind of latched on to trying to be kind of a mentor for her, because I didn't have a lot of very powerful elder sister figures in my own life. So I walk up to Caitlin like very silently, like trying to like sneak up on her so I can fix one of the hairpins because it's not straight. I just whisper as I'm adjusting it, let everyone see the garnets, please.
You can tell that she almost like squeaked or like made a noise, having been surprised because you did sneak up on her. But perhaps in a way that you've seen previously, the kind of like the Vorster stoicism sets in and covers it very quickly. And she just kind of straightens herself and lets you fix the pin, and then kind of turns herself in the seat or on the bench just so, and her head so that the garnet like catches some of the light, and it, when she turns it on, she can do the noble bearing thing, but it is clearly a performance for her in a way that maybe it is not for her siblings. And she says, I thought that I had that because you used the 3/2 and cross post with the third braid, but it just wants to go flying everywhere.
This is why you don't do your hair yourself, Kate. You should have asked me. I would have helped you.
Well, I thought that you were going to be like working with all the security, and that you had to pour yourself into that, which I think probably would have required magic as well.
I am not a guard. I do not work for the guards. Who do I work for?
Am I being politic or not?
Answer how you know it's true.
Well, she's here, so you work for my mother. That being Suen Vorster, the princept of House Vorster, who we can see kind of across the hall, surrounded by other nobles. There's the princept of House Sapphire chatting, but clearly not having the best time from what you can tell. And then an almost, if not larger crowd around Morgaine Vorster, who is the eldest and recognized heir of the house. From Sue, and Morgaine has kind of inherited like a really powerful presence and somewhat sharp features. And they are like, all three of them are fairly fair-skinned, dark hair, kind of brown to dark brown. And Morgaine is like almost half a hand taller than their mother. And as they've kind of risen in age, kind of taken on more responsibilities, there's been a lot of rumors kind of inside the house and out that they have capital A ambition. And I'm curious, Brandon, what Zelpha has heard or thought about a young heir trying to prove themselves.
I mean, I think the thing that is of interest to me is what one wants to prove themselves by doing. There are lots of ways to keep and hold. There's lots of ways to gain and keep power, but none of those things are as valuable as the things that you do with the power when you have it, which is part of the reason why I'm so like focused on Kate, because I do feel like even though for the most part I trust House Vorster very deeply, power is still a very dangerous thing, and I guess I'm trying to get in on the ground floor of someone's relationship with power such that Kate learns that there are responsibilities that one has to the people who are of less power than you. I lean like just a little bit towards Caitlin as I sit down on the bench and I go, this is true. I work for your mother. But working for your mother means that I work for you. I'm sure you've noticed your mother is the kind of person who very often will hand you off to me when she doesn't want to think about you anymore. I've probably spent more time with you on a daily basis than she has. This is unfortunate, but that is true. And that means that on a day such as this, and I reach into the pocket of my dress, because my dress has pockets, and I pull out a golden hair comb clip that is shaped like 5 swords, all touching at the tips and rising outward, with the same garnets in the hilt as the individual sword clips that she presently is wearing. And I wrap it in a handkerchief right in front of her and hand it to her, and I say, as a result, I've never given a gift to your mother. And yet here I am. The third gift that I've given you in 3 Founders Days. Who do you think I work for now?
She kind of unfolds it to look at the comb again, folds it back up, kind of tucks it into, I think she's wearing a dress that also has a jacket over it with it's like a half jacket, and puts it into the jacket, and then stands and says, well, if that's the case, then perhaps you will do me the service of leading me in a dance. I promised Mother that I would dance at least once, and if I dance with you, then I can ignore everyone else.
A wise choice. And I lean in to whisper, I don't think any of the men here can dance well either.
Well, we'll have to see if anyone can prove that wrong, but tonight or maybe not. Hello and welcome, IDK. What name to be?
IDK, what name to be?
Same,
Very
IDK,
good.
same.
TBH. Very cool. Hello and welcome. All right. I think from there our cinematic camera kind of turns as kind of the quartet begins a new song. Marie or Premee, who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Okay.
So while all of my companions are probably dressed a little bit more loudly than I am, I'm still more comfortable in more muted colors. You know, you get the impression that it's a very nice outfit, you know, practical pants, a nice top on, it looks all very fancy and appropriate, but not bright colors by any means. You get the impression that I could fade into the shadows at any second if I needed to. And I'm kind of walking around the edge of the room, and I'm interested right now not so much in the people but in their movements, because I'm trying out of curiosity, trying to adapt some of the old technologies and magics that my family has used to work with monster hunting. I've placed some little crystal markers near some of the entryways that are used, especially by the staff. And the idea behind them is that they give a short signal when they're crossed so that they're easier, like you can tell where the monster movements are happening. But they're not really perfected for people movement. So I've been trying to perfect them, work with them, make them used for different things like bounty hunting. And I'm paying attention to, okay, that one flared a little bit. That one doesn't seem to be doing anything at all. And ooh, that one just like completely went too bright and made a waiter almost drop the tray. So I'm keeping an eye on that, and I'm trying to track kind of the progress, what's working, what's not working in those little pieces of magic that I've tried to adapt. And I'm paying more attention to that than I am to the events themselves. I mean, there's other things to be used in a room with so many people than just talking.
Sure. Well, I think your inspection of these security drums has drawn the attention of actually one of House Vorster's honored guests. You see kind of, or this gentleman kind of steps into your view so as to not surprise you, and he wears a nice but not especially fancy like doublet with like detachable sleeves, and kind of the poofy short pants with hose. And you know this to be Tish Sangha, who is a Valloward inventor and artcraft specialist of Sevenai descent. So he has kind of light brown skin, kind of a quite fetching, like kind of 5 o'clock shadow, and like kind of high peak combed hair, and says, "This is quite fascinating. I don't think I've seen those used in this assemblage. What where did you learn this? Is this an implementation of your own design?"
I mean, if I'm honest, and I look over and over by one of the servers coming out, there's a little sad psh, and a little piece of smoke that comes up. And I'm like, oh, if I'm honest, it's one of my family's design. But the way that we design them is it counted on some pieces from the creatures or some of their families to be able to put into it as kind of a detector, from my understanding. I mean, I'm not a great inventor like you, but I can't take skin and hair from the servers. I've been quite told fiercely this. And so I'm finding it difficult to make the system work correctly so that it detects everyone and everything going through the barrier. I mean, you can see so many applications for it.
Well, certainly. I think having the sympathetic connection to that what you're trying to detect, the utility based on the source that you described is very evident. I think the difficulty in a broader application is, that's an interesting challenge. Have you considered broadening your sympathetic resonance to objects or elements that are more representative rather than literal and a direct sample?
Like a service tray for a server?
A service tray for a server, or well, of course, I imagine that the house has this, and that there some of these elements are proprietary. But whatever code or cipher that the house has, or your own set of symbols, rituals, or something like that, it could be that the broad usage of such a pattern of coded meaning would give you something of a medium to draw from or to draw on in using something that kind of outsteps or goes more broad than the original intent here. I also might recommend recutting some of these gems into an icosahedral pattern, I find that that is actually very useful for human-oriented workings.
Oh, thank you. I'm not working with humans and trying to make this technology not quite as deadly or dangerous is my difficulty right now.
Well, that is a difficulty of which I'm sadly very familiar. You know that there's rumors that Tishk is working on something really big that could kind of reshape the city. Like, that's the rumor. But this project has not been announced, and you don't know whether it's supposed to be announced today, but that's like some of the buzz around this guy.
Okay. And I mean, if something that being a bounty hunter has taught Kara, it is the fact that rumors are not to be dismissed, and having the upper edge of the rumor is definitely not a bad thing. So I'll turn my head a little bit more towards him. I've been kind of staring at the crystal. So, well, I have to be honest, I have heard some interesting rumors about what you're working on.
Oh,
Sounds
well,
pretty big.
That I can confirm. I would not be in such a shape if I was working on small projects. I've found that my ambition has landed me with larger and larger tasks and expectations to match them. But working for one of the great houses, I imagine that you may be familiar with that.
No, not unfamiliar with them, but I definitely don't stand in the spotlight such as you seem to be doing right now.
Oh, well, that I've been trying to get away from it all night. Like, looks up at one of the murals and kind of cracks a smile. It's trying to light me in orange, and it's just not my color.
Well, I mean, you look good in anything, friend. Don't worry about that. But tell you what, if ever you need extra help or you need just someone to keep an eye on you, just let me know. Don't be shy. I know these things can be bad, and it's a big city. Word gets out. If I hear anything weird, I'll let you know. But I don't know. If I heard about the fact that you're working on something big, other people will have to.
Well, I'm very grateful for that offer and may call upon you if the orange continues to hound me to the ends of the earth.
Understood. Well, perhaps at some point I'll call on you for these this technology that I'm trying to perfect. Though I do appreciate your thoughts on them, and I'm thinking I might have to acquire some of that perfume that some of the houses do tend to prefer. But be careful, friend. You never know what lurks in the shadows.
Well, if there is any place on Valor Isle that is safe, surely it's the stronghold of House Vorster.
Well, that's for sure. You should see some of the traps I've laid across this place.
Okay, cool. And from that, I think we'll cut over to Lutrus. Premee, did you have an idea of like a party detail or thoughts on what Lutrus is up to?
Yeah, so Lutrus, I think, is a little tense at things like this, not because of the people, but because of the company. He's very used to crowds, being in the army and coming from kind of the lower status areas of the city and growing up with, crowded places. He's walking around with a drink, not something very strong, and people don't seem to notice that he's not drinking it because he's just holding a drink, and their eyes kind of glance off it after they notice that he is holding a drink. He's wearing his old dress uniform, and he's always very proud that he's kept it in nice condition and that he still fits into it, and he tries to take very, very good care of it. It's kind of a bluish gray color with trim and the crest, of the city, maybe, rather than House Vorster. And it's got a short cloak that clips onto his shoulders. And He's circulating. He's chatting to people he vaguely knows because he's got a good memory, and he's like, "Well, how's your wife? How's your boyfriend? How's your kid doing at university? I know the term just started. How's that pack of hunting dogs of yours?" And he'll talk to people for a minute and keep going on because he's a social climber, but he's nervous about being seen as a social climber. And eventually he wanders over to a corner where strange lights are happening because he's curious, and there's too many people standing in front of it for him to really see what's going on. So he kind of edges in there with his drink, which is not a whole bottle of wine. Thank you, Marie. And and he spots what at first seems something like it would be from his old neighborhood, like something tacky kind of, but it's the fancy person version of something tacky. And it's a little stall that's been set up with 3 or 4 craftsmen who are working away at something small under magnifying glasses. And there's people milling around holding their drinks. And they're making souvenirs for the 300th Founders Day, but they're very, very fancy souvenirs. Hair clips made of gold and silver combs and brooches and rings that are being customized with little symbols and wards. And Lutrus kind of nods. He thinks these are tacky, but of course they can't be tacky because they're real precious metals and they're real gems, and it's being made in real time. And all the really wealthy nobles that have been invited to this party are kind of loitering around here and remarking on each other's souvenirs and kind of looking at it. So he's watching that happen, and he's kind of making a note of who's gathered around here and who's getting the really expensive customized brooch and who's getting a smaller fancy maybe ring or something like that. And he's drinking his drink and leaning against the wall.
So I think from a side room that's just a little bit along that, or there's a door that leads immediately to a side room, which is often used for meetings. And then there's a hall that connects to the kitchen. Around the corner from that hall, you see Morgaine, the heir, turn and catches your eye and kind of walks over and kind of in the 3 seconds that they took between seeing you and walking over, you get the sense that they've read the whole scene, and look to your glass and say, if I'm not mistaken, that glass is as full as it was half an hour ago. We have guards on duty. You can enjoy yourself.
Oh, thank you for your consideration, but how do you know I didn't just get another drink and drink it down to the same level?
Because of the smudge on the glass, I've been meaning to ask the staff to rotate that out, but we had too many people coming today, so we had to use everything.
Very perceptive of you. Very perceptive. Yeah, the truth is, I thought tonight might be a good night to be clear-headed.
It's not unreasonable. What do you think of the keepsakes here?
Well, I'm sure they'll prove to be charming little items for people to leave to their children and grandchildren later on down the line. But if I may be honest, it's nothing that I'd personally wear around the city.
They are a good reminder of the differences between how things were and how things are, and a good way of knowing who has what kind of taste. And that's they say very softly so that others can't hear. Covering their, basically angling their fan so that no one could read their lips as they do so, just kind of doing some casual fan art, and this is probably like a 10, 12 inch fan, not one of the, like the bigger ones that you see in like burlesque shows or something, but like a smaller hand fan. Because it's not summer. This is spring. And I think it's at that moment that I ask, what is it that you notice that is suddenly wrong in the room?
The statue has gone through one transformation already. I don't think I recognize the third person that it's turned into. I wonder who does, and I wonder who did that, because I'm sure that can't have been part of the program.
Yeah. So as you turn to regard the statue, the figure is a little tragic, and you can tell that in their hand they were supposed to be holding like a globe or maybe some crafted item, but instead when the stone dissolves around this thing into a sphere, there is a gigantic pop and a flash, like a flashbang going off. And suddenly the room is filled with shouts and like very palpable fear all at once.
I finished the rest of my drink. It takes a lot to phase Lutrus, having grown up the way that he has. I back up against the wall, because it's good to have your back to the wall just in case there's some kind of crush or mob situation. And I noticed that Morgaine has done the same, because they're a very sensible person, despite being brought up in money. And to my memory, never really having encountered anything like this. And we watch the chaos unfold, because people are running for the exits, even though they don't know what they're running from.
Yeah. And so there's people kind of brushing by you, and there's the shout of guards, and the Princept Vorster is trying to like regain control of the room, but like a lot of people have like they're clutching their face because their vision is still totally rocked, and the light, it feels like it generated a bunch of light and sound, but now there is a thick kind of white gray something in the air. And so there's people brushing by, and you see, maybe just in time to be able to do something, one of the craftspeople kind of flips something in their wrist as they're walking up to Morgaine, and you see a knife. What do you do?
I don't even think. I quickly reach out and take the person's wrist and take the knife and squeeze just hard enough to let them know that if I wanted to, I could break their wrist, but I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. And now I've got a nice new knife.
Okay, so to accomplish this, I think you'll need to make a roll.
That just happens, just so we know. That all just occurs.
Yeah,
and that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, what do I have to roll? Sorry, I'm back on the roll 20.
Yeah, you're good. So all you're going to use roll 24 is to just literally roll the dice. What I will need from you is which action you're using to do this. And so this is on your character sheet.
I can't remember.
So actions that you have some points in. Skirmish is a likely candidate here, because this assailant has lethal intention, you can tell. But the player always gets to say what action the character is using to address the challenge. Then what I do as the GM is I will say, here's how risky that is, and here's how effective it will be if you succeed. And so I think skirmish is a good choice here, but this is still a desperate situation. You will, however, have standard effect instead of maybe limited effect if you were trying to use maybe maneuver to disarm them, or if you were just going to try to use sway to get them to stop. So I'm talking about some options just to give context.
I think as a Couth, I wonder if I can maneuver at all in this situation. I mean, it sounds like it just happened quite suddenly. This sounds like a skirmish to me.
Yep.
And I don't know. I feel good about skirmish. I'm pretty sober. I'm a little on edge.
Sure
I
thing.
just grabbed him. I'm rolling to see if I can.
Right. Do you recall which of the special abilities you took on your playbook? Which extra thing on top of the special armor you have?
It's not special items, right?
No, it's going to be in the same column as the special armor. So there's the section that says the Couth, and then special armor is under that, and then there's like 6 more in that same column. You get one of those, but I don't see any of them selected.
Check any one of them. It doesn't look like.
Okay, so this will be a great time to decide if you want to take something that is relevant to what's happening here. So when ambushed, you could gain +1 effect to all actions during a flashback. So you could flashback to having foreseen something about this, or you could be vengeful, or any of these other options. You don't have to
let's
pick
go
it.
with better to be a tiger than a man, because
Awesome.
yeah, the reason I was looking at those craftspeople was because some of them looked kind of familiar, and I'm sure that House Vorster wouldn't have hired anybody from the low to come work at this party. But if they were looking for skilled craftspeople who might be able to work with this kind of thing, maybe they did. Maybe this person recognized me. Maybe I recognize them. Maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah, so if you flash back, you can basically say, we're going to flash back to, and then sometime before now. So you could say, I'm going to flash back to the time that I saw this craftsperson on this, on this corner. You basically just say, as an author, this is the moment we're flashing back to. Normally, when you do a flashback like that, I might say, oh, well, that's fairly unlikely. So you have to pay 2 stress. Because of better to be a tiger than a man, that flashback costs no stress. So you tell me what moment we flash back to. If you want to do something daring there, you might roll then, but you get to be the author for a moment.
Okay. I saw this particular craftsperson back in the low associating with a group of organized crime people, gangsters that I normally tried to avoid, and didn't think much of it because, it's kind of a small, wet neighborhood and we all kind of know each other. But he's got a very distinctive face, and I recognize the face, and I know that he keeps low company, lower than I used to keep even.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is just establishing a detail. Okay. So I don't think I'll need to make you roll for that. But basically, the craftsperson comes, and if this were a TV show, we would cut to Lutrus seeing that person in the low, seeing some associations or a quick montage, and then we jump back to see Lutrus leaping into action. So you have 1 in skirmish. You would start with 1 die. You can push yourself, which means you mark 2 stress. Stress is a resource you have to basically get to do cool things or resist bad things. I will let you all know that it's fine to do a push or 2 or an assist, because you will get to clear your stress between this evening and when we do your first errand. So I would invite you to push for an extra die if you like, because with a 1 in skirmish, you'd roll 1 die and you need a 4+ for a success, or a 6 for a success without consequences.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think an assist like that definitely makes sense. As you're like making your way to Lutrus, especially because Lutrus is right next to Morgaine, you see that one of the servers has emerges from some smoke, and the tray that they have is sharp, and they are going to try to basically they're following on and about to throw the they're about to throw that tray at Lutrus, and so you could assist by interposing yourself and doing something about that.
Please save me from odd job.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that. Show them what you do. Random task. So I imagine that both swords are out. And as the sort of tray is coming back, what I'd like to do is to step in front with swords crossed to block the tray. And what I'd really like to do is block it and then just all my strength down to get the tray out of his hand. This is my imagination. Step forward, interpose, tray down, knee in the chest, throwing him back on the ground with the sword at his throat. And then I'll say something cool once I figure that out. That's what that's what I'd like to do. Now, how do I do that?
Yeah. So if you're doing an assist in a situation like this, I'm fine to say, cool, you did that thing. It's an assist. One of the things that's fun in this game is that sometimes you get to do a really cool thing without having to roll for it because you're really just assisting somebody else.
Okay. Well, then awesome. Then I appreciate that. And so I will do that. And so it clatters to the ground. I am curious, one note as I'm knocking this person to the ground with a knee in the chest. Do I get a sense, how much resistance does the faux servant put up? That is to say, is this something that I'm able to do with relative ease? Or is this a person who only my superior whatever is able to overbear this person? I want to know how professional this person is, basically.
Sure.
And I don't know what you can tell me, if anything, about that.
Yeah, I think because you are using your fine weapons, you are able to do this relatively easy. But you think if you were using lesser weapons or weapons you weren't familiar with, this would be more of a straight up challenge because of them having initiative and because things are so chaotic and you're having to keep track of everything.
Okay.
So this is a tier 2 opponent, and you are a tier 2 group, and then you have a fine item which lets you take effect as if you were tier 3.
Gotcha.
So I'll give you that bit of information. What's the cool thing you say?
So when he is the knee in the chest and he is knocked down to the ground and the sword immediately is down at his throat, and I say, that'll be enough of that. There's been enough damage, I think, to plates and other items tonight. Instead, we're going to talk, you and I, in just a moment, about what guild of servants you've come from and who you intended to serve here. In the meantime, stay there, barely breathing, for just a moment, yes? And then I turn around with my sword still at his throat, by the way, with my other sword held out, and I turn to see, is the smoke still in the room, or has it started to clear at all? Can I see where Lutrus is?
So I think because you had a cool monologue, your timeline has advanced past when Lutrus has made the roll. So I'm going to jump back to Lutrus real quick.
Great. That's good. I come back turning as Lutrus is doing something awesome. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully I'm doing something awesome. The dice will tell me if I'm doing something awesome.
So Premee, you have 1 for your skirmish. You have +1 die from getting an assist. And you can go ahead and count as if you've pushed if you want. Sounds like this is an important thing. So that would mean
this is important.
You would want to type /roll 3d6 in Roll20, all as one phrase.
Okay.
Is it? Do we separate between roll and the dice?
Space 3d6.
Yep, you got it right.
Did that work? I typed it in chat.
Yep. It worked. I see a success there.
I see it. Okay. I got a 3, a 2, and a 5.
Okay, so on a 5, you do it, but there's a consequence.
Okay.
Um,
Well, that's life.
yeah, so I think
Do I drop my drink?
so.
That's
What
quite a
happens?
consequence.
What happens is that you get the knife away, but he trips you, and then gets the knife away. He jumps and then jumps up from your shoulder onto like a bit of like it's not like a chandelier, but it's like a window pane or something.
So he's a cat.
The consequence is that he is out of the room in an instant.
Oh.
You lose the opportunity to capture him.
Does he smash the window when he does that?
He
Or is
does.
the window
He does
open?
go. He does go through the window.
So,
yeah.
so I just turn around to see by that point. So Lutrus is down on the ground with a knife, but then covered in glass as he's out the window, basically.
Ah.
All right, I'm gonna jump to
Lutrus,
Marie.
you're not supposed to break the fine things, yes?
Can I? Because I have the ability to have a flashback of setting traps, and I've already discussed how I've been putting little things around to test different things. So on the window, on a lark, I had set up before the party, and I'd actually set this up a couple of days ago because I was thinking, what if somebody decides to do because a lot of people are kind of fancy around here and it's a party. So I was kind of picturing, what if somebody decides to just take a rope and just kind of fly through the window and do a double hoop and then stab somebody in the heart as they land. I have an active imagination. I've seen these things. And so I had set a trap on the window itself that electrifies it to a certain degree. So anybody who tried to break it would basically get zapped.
That's literally what I just said in chat. I don't know if you were looking at the chat, but that's the best. It's like, so the window's electrified. And you're like, the window's electrified. I'm like, of course it is.
So,
oh man.
So, and it's something that we've used for monsters before, little electricity traps to just kind of stop them so that they're not dead. They're just, which I know is bad now, I understand, but so they're just kind of ride there for a while so that you can collect the pieces correctly while they're still alive. It's terrible. I'm sorry.
Cool. So you get to flashback. Why don't you make a roll for setting the trap in that flashback?
Okay.
And what action it is up to you. What action do you think you use to set a trap like this? Hunt is certainly an option here.
I was gonna say hunt, yeah, because it's something that I'd be thinking about. I'm pulling on my experience. I'm hunting for a random, really, really out there scenario. Just having fun.
Yeah, so you'll start at 2 die for sure, and you'll get increased effect, which basically, if you hit, will not just knock this person out, but will send them flying back into the room so they are easier to secure.
Oh, I want that real bad. So how do I? So I get 2 die in this one.
You have 2 die. I do at this moment want to pause because I know that Brandon has the assist move to see if he would like to have been a part of setting these defenses. You are not required to, but I want to give you the opportunity.
Let me look at that move again. Foresight, twice per errand, you may assist a teammate without paying stress. Describe how you prepared for it. How did I prepare for this?
Perhaps you help me come up with the unlikely scenario of someone flying through the window? Just a thought.
I feel like the thing that I would have prepared for as a result was because I know that these windows, being art crafted, are a big deal to the Vorsters because keeping up appearances is very important, and also replacing those windows is very expensive and very difficult and time consuming. That because of an argument I had with Morgaine. I was tasked with personally ensuring that multiple bodyguards would be available at the foot of every window from the outdoors. But as a result, all of them are immediately available to see you in the instance that you need physical assistance.
So the role would have been in the past. So is that the guards helping set the traps?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. So if you
They
mark,
could boost me.
yeah, if you mark one use of foresight, which you'll refresh before we do the next thing, then Marie, you can take a assist on that.
Okay, awesome. So now I do 3d6.
Yep. And
And
we're
what?
looking.
Oh, what does it mean when it says 10 take +1 effect when setting or having set a trap?
So the effect bonus is why I described that they would get shot back into the room.
Right.
So you would have standard effect, but because of your ability, you get greater effect. And so instead of being shocked and maybe falling out of the building, this person is going to fall back into the building so that they are easier to capture.
Perfect. All right. So, and what am I trying to hit with 3d6?
If you get a 6, you get success with no consequence. If you get more than 1 6, you get a critical and you get extra effect. If your highest is a 4 or a 5, you will succeed, but there will be a consequence. And if your highest is 3 or below, then you do not succeed and there is a consequence.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like that system. Okay, 3d6 incoming.
Great.
Oh no! I'm not good at my traps. I'm so sorry.
Total of 6.
So
6 is there. The number.
What like you look up expecting that this person will get shocked and thrown back into the room, but you see that someone has ever so expertly clipped the wires so that the trap has been sabotaged.
Okay. I pull out my bow and I totally want to hunt this person down now. Can I hunt them down?
Perhaps, but we're going to like snap zoom through and across the room as if this were leverage again, because why not? To Zelpha and Caitlin. So Zelpha, how do you notice the sniper on the 3rd floor?
So,
funny you should mention that.
the unfortunately very useful part of having a lot of gold in your regular wear during Founders Day, so that every once in a while you'll just notice the glints of light from a thing and go, I wonder where that light's coming from. And then you turn towards it and you see a whole human perched to take a whole shot from a whole arrow.
Yep. So here's the problem. They're not shooting down. They're shooting the giant chandelier that's right above Morgaine. But you see them just as they basically settle in and set to take the shot. So you can do something about this. The question is, what do you do about this?
I need to know what I can do. Jesus. I need. God, what gear do I have?
So I will note that Lutrus is right next to Morgaine. So one option is about communication. there's always the option to do a flashback, to have foreseen something about that. The question is how would...
Please don't kill me in the first session.
Well, the nice thing about...
You know what would be hilarious though? I do feel like there is like the very obvious, very funny flashback, which is I have at some point, like days before Founders Day, even just like in regular conversation about the building itself, confronted Sue and Vorster about the fact that a chandelier is an obvious safety hazard. And as such, I have had several masons in service to House Vorster reinforce the chandelier such that if one were to shoot it, it would still drop. And then you'd realize, oh no, there's just stronger cabling right underneath that will just let it just tumble a foot and a half.
Okay, very cool. So what action do you think you would roll to accomplish that?
I mean, I feel like the very obvious would be command, because I am giving an order, but I have no dots in command. So that would be a terrible idea. So
I would say
sway instead.
I also think that you would be in a riskier position to try to command the princept of the house to do something in her own house. And sway is a much softer touch, and would then be more effective in this situation. So I think this is a risky standard, sway, to have done this in the past. And if this were a cinematic pilot, I would say that that's probably a 2-stress flashback, because it's a very specific circumstance.
2 stress, you say?
Yeah. So it's
Ow.
sway to have already convinced the Masons of House Vorster to reinforce the chandeliers, which is why Force of the Dark games rule.
And I'm rolling 2d6. Yes, good lord.
So that's
a 4 and a 6.
A 4 and a 6. So it happens as you describe. As the shot flies across the room, how do you feel knowing that exactly the thing that you complained about was a thing that someone was trying to exploit?
Have they shot the chandelier already?
Oh, I was going to give you the moment as it was firing, but what happens is exactly as you described. They shoot and it drops, but stops after like a foot and a half, and then there's like a very loud, kind of cacophonous, very visually confusing jangling, because the chandelier sways and is spinning, but it does not fall.
So I position myself very uniquely in this moment, such that I am standing in between the shooter and Caitlin, but I am turning towards Morgaine. And where is Suen in relationship to Morgaine in this room?
Morgaine is most of the way across the room to your left, and Suen is on the right, like basically waving people out of the building.
I shout to Suen, "I know what I'm talking about, miss." And then I gesture to Lutrus to keep an eye out for said shooter.
Okay. And now we're going to jump back to Greg, real quick, because you had your next beat in mind. That's all the roles we're going to need. So this is going to be basically quick narrative round, like wrapping up this scene so that we don't go too late, because I also want to make sure everyone does outros. So Greg, what's your next thing?
Quick question first. What happened to the sniper?
The sniper is still up there because this is all happening in the span of like 10 seconds.
Okay. I guess my attention is still focused on the guy. Well, no, because that's not true, because I turned around, I saw Lutrus fall, right?
Now you would have heard the shot as well.
Yeah. So, which means I'd be looking up there. I probably would be like, third floor, and I'm probably yelling at at a couple of the guards who, if they haven't already seen it, to like get the hell up to the third floor, where the sniper is. And then I think probably what I do is I look down and I sort of see that they're not going to react immediately. And I'm like, and I look down at I look back at the person who's down on the ground, the person who tried to throw the tray, who tried to Tron deadly discs it just a moment ago. And I look at the person and I say, "You don't mind going anywhere? I hate to keep you around, but I'm afraid you're going to have to be stuck for just a moment." And I take one of my swords and I plunge it into his cloak, right into the ground, which means that if or his tunic. So basically, assuming he's not going anywhere without, it's going to take him a while, is my intention.
So does that get anchored by the floor, by the wall?
No, my thought is that it's because he's on the floor. So my thought is that my sword goes down through the tunic into the floor, because it is a wooden floor. So that's, and yes, the fact that that's going to therefore be hurting the House Vorster's nice floor is not going to occur to me. Like, I'm just like, we need to stop this dude. So I do that. And then assuming that works with the other one, I step over him and I basically book it towards is the chandelier, I have a question. The chandelier fell a little bit, right? I know it was reinforced, but it fell a little bit.
Yes.
Enough that I could get to it now?
If you did some
I know you said no rolls.
Swashbuckling jump bullshit. Yes,
Well, that was my intention, was to basically leap up, grab the chandelier. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm assuming that if it's anything like guy cables that are used to protect lights from falling in theaters, you double rig lights for the same reason, so that if a light happens to fall, what happens is it will fall and then swing, right? So my thought is that it's now open enough that it can swing near the balcony. So what I want to do, sword down, jump up, being thankful that I'm wearing ceremonial armor and not the normal super heavy kind. Basically pull myself up into the chandelier, swing forward at what I'm hoping is the what the hell is going on sniper guy. That's the way I'm hoping is reacting. I shouldn't assume sniper person. I don't know what they are. And swing to the railing, basically jumping over them. So this is all like stab, run, jump up, and then swing over onto the railing to get to the person. Yeah, that's my plan. That's the theory.
I think the sniper sees you coming in this like terrifying Renaissance-ish parkour.
Yep.
And just starts running. And so we get a quick montage of a rooftop chase, because you have to run them down.
Of course
on
I
the
do.
rooftops.
Sign me up.
And I think that one goes a different direction than the one that went through the window goes. And so, Marie, we also see Kara like chasing another one. That one is headed for the river, and you catch them just before they get to the river, and realize as you pull, like kind of, you have them by the neck, that on his like clavicle is tattooed an eel, indicating that he's a member of the gang, the Eels, which is in fact the case for all of these assailants.
Clever.
Having thwarted 3 assassination attempts that all unfolded in the same moment, between now and the next session, I will give you some information that you may be able to acquire from interrogating these eels. But I think we're going to wrap there in the interest of time, having gotten to see a bit of who these retainers are and a little bit of their relationship to one another. I will.
Welcome, dearest retainers, to Court of Blades, and welcome to Valloward, the greatest city in this or any other age. A city where hearts race and swords flash, where intrigue and danger lie around every corner. Centuries ago, celebrated veterans were given title to Valor Isle, a place long abandoned by its first residents. Here, the heroes found ancient secrets, bountiful land, and a fruit bearing oracular gifts. Generations later, 6 families vie for ultimate control of this jewel of the archipelago, each seeking to lead the great dance of houses. A new retinue rises to clash with flashing blades, veiled plots, and powerful magics in pursuit of their house's interests and their own secret ambitions. Speculate presents Valloward, a Court of Blades campaign, starring Premee Mohamed, Marie Bilodeau, Brandon O'Brien, Gregory A. Wilson, and your dancing master, Michael R. Underwood. Be welcome, retainer. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. It's time for Court of Blades.